Thank you, Cathaoirleach. In the first days of COVID back in February of 2020, we were a country gripped by fear of a pandemic we were ill prepared for. The displays from Europe alerted government here in Ireland that we did not have a plan to deal with the pandemic. Government decided the best way to prevent the spread and allow them prepare was time and money was what was needed. We locked down, private hospitals were taken over to ensure bed capacity, preparation underway to put a gold standard test, trace and isolate system in place, enough capacity to ensure we could contain the virus and reduce spread, and increase the ICU capacity. No stone would be left unturned was the motto. In May 2020, we had no sight of a plan that government were to reopen. We had to push for one to be produced here on the floor. In late October 2020, I raised concerns and questioned the capacity of the test, trace and isolate system. I was told it was more than adequate. Yet, 3 weeks after opening up in November, it collapsed, just as Christmas dawned, which saw the country go into the longest lockdown in the EU. In contrast, in the EU, antigen testing was being widely used as part of an armoury to allow society to reopen. In fact, in March this year, the French insisted that every Irish driver entering France had to provide a clear antigen test to show a clear COVID status, or they would be turned back. The French authorities gave the Irish government a list of over 40 approved antigen tests that could be used. At the same time, NPHET continued to deny that antigen tests were reliable. There was talk of a vaccine. It would be the Holy Grail. Despite numerous calls from eminent medics and opposition TDs, including myself, to invoke antigen testing on a widespread basis, as the vaccine on its own would not be enough. Such was NPHET's disbelief, one member describing antigen testing as snake oil. Needless to say, those requests fell on deaf ears. 20 months into the pandemic, we are still a country gripped by fear of a pandemic that we are ill prepared for. 20 months since government first said they would implement a gold standard test, trace and isolate system. They didn't. Today, in 21 counties, people are unable to get a PCR test. They said they would increase ICU capacity. They didn't. They would implement widespread antigen testing. They didn't. The public's confidence in government to do anything but lockdown is waning, because the most elementary of things required to contain the virus and allow society to live with COVID are in the same place 20 months later. It has been clear to everyone that the vaccine was a bonus, not a panacea. There is no panacea. This virus will be with us for years, medics predict. Government's inability to devise a long-term strategy to allow us to live with COVID is now compromising the health of the nation, cancelling critical transplant operations and almost all other elective surgeries. I agree when government says this is a surge. The question is, what are they doing about it? In addition, the messaging on antigen testing is now more confused and contradictory than ever between government and NPHET. People believe that government's default position is lockdown. Government will say, we have no choice. Government will say, other countries have failed. We should not rely on the failure of others to defend ourselves. The fact is that there were choices, but government didn't make them. If we are to endure another lockdown, can we at least have a commitment from government that NPHET and the HSE will devise a long-term strategy, a strategy which must ensure to resource all of the aforementioned, to use whatever supports are available in the armoury, a strategy to allow us to live with COVID in the long term once and for all. I want to ask today for a commitment from Minister Butler, who is here, that there will be walk-in test centres set up especially and immediately in the 21 counties where PCR tests cannot be obtained. Councillor Jack Sarones, an independent councillor in Enniscorthy, County Wexford, called for this on Tuesday. I've endorsed his call and I'm asking for a clear commitment from government that this will happen so as that people will be allowed to enjoy their Christmas. Thank you.